Hey guys, so I'm in the thrift store and I found some fabulous real silver silverware. So I've got some pie servers, some knives. I always run out of butter knives, so I decided to stock up on some really pretty vintage silver ones. And I'm super excited. I got some hankies that are 50% off. But I'm trying to decide if I want to buy this vintage tablecloth. And one of my rules are if I'm not like 100% sold and it's not a good deal, I have to walk away. And sometimes I just make myself walk around the store to really think about it, but I keep coming back to it. I gotta show it to you. So here it is. Isn't that fabric just gorgeous? Oh, and it's 100% cotton. I'm not sure if it's really just replica fabric because it does have a tag on it. It definitely looks like vintage fabric, but it's in excellent shape. I have a feeling it's gonna come home with me. There's some other cool pieces here in the vintage fabrics, but a lot of it has got a lot of staining on it. Like this piece has got a lot of staining that I'm just not sure I could get out. So I'm getting ready to go into the first antique store. Everywhere else we've been so far has been thrift stores, which is great because thrift store prices, you're not really guaranteed to find as much. Usually you can find a few treasures. Prices are a lot low. The antique stores are usually pretty high. I don't usually I find a ton of stuff I want, but not a ton of stuff I can afford. So we're gonna see what we find today. So you just never know what you're gonna find in the antique store. Of course, I'm drawn to any of the kitchen stuff, and they had a cool crock that was filled with some different rolling pins, and I'm gonna show you the bargain I just found. So here's one of the vintage crocks, which I absolutely love. And then they've got some older rolling pins in here. And the rolling pins they have marked anywhere from 15 to 18, which I'm not gonna pay that much for a rolling pin, but this one wasn't marked with a price. And when I asked, they said $10. This totally works. So I am snagging this piece up. So this is a really cool piece. This is one of the old crocks, and I haven't really seen a whole lot that have these really awesome handles on it, but the price tag on it is $195, which is too much for me to spend on a crock, but I can certainly admire it. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you some of my favorite thrift store and antique finds and tips you need to know if you're buying things and how to get the best deals and what to look for. And the other thing that I'm going to show you is how to make my Mocha coffee. A lot of you guys, after showing you the reveal last week of redoing and organizing my cupboards with the mason jars, you asked if I would show you how I actually make my coffee with the cocoa powder and the collagen powder. And I gotta tell you, I'm gonna give you a way better video if I have some caffeine in me. So let's make a coffee and then we'll go through the thrift store finds, okay? Okay. So the first thing that we have to start with if we're gonna have a good coffee is you gotta start with good coffee beans. So I actually do a mix because I love coffee, but I don't wanna have too much caffeine. So I actually mix decaf with regular espresso beans. And so it's half calf. I mix that together and that's perfect. But the coffee that I use is from Camino Island Coffee. And many of you guys know I used to have horrible acid reflux and stomach ulcers. I had my esophagus and my stomach actually biopsied for cancer. And when I was going through that healing process of changing and going to all natural food and figuring out what my trigger foods were and getting complete healing, I did have to give up coffee for a while. And I was just drinking regular coffee, the brands that you would find regularly on the store shelf. Well, I found that even after I did a lot of healing, I can't drink regular coffee when it's brewed regularly, either with hot water. I can do toddy, which is a cold brew and doesn't pull out as much acid, but I wasn't able to drink regular hot coffee that was brewed with hot water or espresso on a daily basis without it starting to bother me until I started using this coffee. So it's organic and it is shade grown and it's fair trade. And the awesome thing is I have it on a monthly shipment. So they literally roast it and they mail it to me the next day. So it's super fresh. But the interesting thing is because it's organic and it's shade grown, it naturally has less acid. And so I have been drinking this coffee. It's the only coffee beans that I've been using for and they will send it out. They'll roast it and grind it for you if you don't have a grinder and you need the grounds. But I've been using it for like 3+ years, and I can drink it hot. I usually have 2 cups a day without issue. And this has been the only brand of coffee that I've been able to. I've even tried different brands of other organic coffee, and it would bother me after a while. So anyways, I do have a link, which I'll pop below if you want to check them out, that you can get 50% off of a shipment. It's a referral link, so I get credit. So thank you so much if you do use it. But the reason I'm sharing it is because it's the only thing I actually got to go and visit there. They're kind of local to me. They're like an hour away from me, and I got to go and visit their little store and their cafe, which is super cool, and actually see where they roast the beans. But anyways, starting with good coffee, beans, the base of your coffee is going to be a tremendous help in having really good coffee. So I got to tell you, I used to be a barista, so I'm a little bit more picky about my coffee than a lot of people. Now, you can do this with regular drip coffee, but I do have an espresso machine. I tried a lot of espresso machines over the home ones, over the past years. This one is as good of shots that I used to have when I worked at the actual espresso stands for a home machine. So it's not cheap, but this baby is amazing. So I just have to tell you that. So I've got my beans already here in the hopper, so I don't need to add any more. Got them ground, fresh grind every time I do a shot. I always do a double because I'm a double type kind of girl there. And then I've pressed my grounds. You need them to be pressed. And then I'm just going to rinse this off and store this right here. And first step is to get our shot of coffee. So get that in there. So that, my friends, is how you know it's a good shot. And yes, I'm reusing my cup from earlier this morning, so it's dirty. Is when you see, it's called crema, and it looks like there's foam on the top of your coffee. That means it's a really good shot of coffee. We're totally after that. So up next, I actually got a little bit of mess there on the counter. Clean that up. So up next, when I'm making mine, I don't use sugar. So this is liquid stevia. This is the brand that I have. I don't think it has an aftertaste. And I don't drink just a straight Americano or black coffee. I do have to have some sweetener, and I do like a little bit of cream in there. So I'm going to go ahead and add my drops of stevia to that. Now, how I make my mocha, because people were like, you're making your mocha with not chocolate syrup? Yeah, so mocha is chocolate. Whenever you say a mocha, it means that it has chocolate in it. That's all that means. And so because my sweetener is the liquid stevia, and I don't want to use chocolate syrup. So for me, and this is a 12 ounce. So I like to do a tablespoon, and this is raw organic cocoa powder. So I add that in right to my shot. Technically it's a double shot, 2 shots there. And then even though I have a steamer to froth the milk, I like to mix the cocoa powder up first. And if you have one of these frothers, this thing is so much fun. It actually helps, I feel, better than a spoon, get that cocoa powder dissolved into the coffee. So I just kind of like that and get that all whipped into my espresso. Now, if you want to do an Americano, which is simply your espresso shots and water type mocha with just the chocolate flavoring, then I would just add hot water. And when I am doing my fasted bulletproof coffee in the morning, I actually don't add the cocoa powder. I just do an Americano, and I'll add cocoa butter wafers and the MCT oil. But it's almost not quite afternoon. This is my second cup of the day. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do a mocha with cream and my collagen powder. So the collagen powder, I just do 1 scoop. And the collagen powder peptides are really fine. And so I don't use the frother. I just use a spoon, and I want to make sure that it gets dissolved in that hot water. So I kind of will put it on there and then press it down into the liquid just to make sure that it's all the way dissolved. I wish you could smell this. It smells so good. Be a little bit tricky to actually get all that collagen powder dissolved. It kind of likes to clump a little bit. So I just make sure it stirs, and if I see any little clumps, then I'll just push it against the cup with the back of the spoon. But that's all dissolved now. So now to do a mocha, I'm going to be steaming some almond milk with a little bit of cream to top this bad boy off. And that, my friends, is how you make a fabulous homemade mocha. Now, if you want to do a mocha breve, which is actually my favorite, instead of mixing some of the cream with the milk, you would just do all cream. That's the most decadent. But I try to keep my sugars low, and so that's why I'm actually using the almond milk with just a little bit of cream, because cream actually has less sugars than any other type of regular cow's milk or dairy milk. So whole milk has less sugars, 2% has more sugars, 1% has more sugars, etc. So I only have whole milk in the house, but usually I mix the cream with the almond milk to even keep my sugars down. I try to keep my sugars low. I'm not doing keto right now, but I still try to keep my sugar consumption low, which is why this does not have any sugar in it, just a little bit of carbs from about a tablespoon or so of the cream, but it's how you get it to taste amazing. Such good stuff. Okay, let's get on to my vintage finds, because I'm super excited about everything I ended up getting, and I can't wait to share it all with you. It's so good. Regardless of going to a thrift store or an antique store, wherever you're going, you're shopping, I have a couple of hard and fast rules. One, when I'm going, I need to know what I'm looking for. So if I'm just going to browse, like, that can totally be fun. But if I'm going with the intent and purpose of buying stuff, when it comes into my home, because I love antiques and I could quickly fill my house, if I had enough money, I should say, with as many antiques as possible. But I don't want to clutter everything up. And so I really need to know, does this have a place? Am I going to be able to use it? Because my favorite thing, honestly, about purchasing antiques is items, one, that they look cool and they have that history and they do have value, but really that I can also use them. So for the majority of the things that I bought, I'm actually putting them to use, and they are a functioning part of my kitchen. So I knew as I was going in, I was really looking for kitchen items, and there were some specific things that I really wanted to get, and I did find them. So that's it. Go in with a plan and know, where is this going in my home, and am I going to be using it? And if it doesn't have a place or a purpose or something, and its purpose can just be to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be functional, but ideally it can be a little bit of both, but know that going in. The second thing is, both at the thrift store and the antique stores, is knowing the value of the item that you're going to be buying. None of us want to overpay for something. And so the great thing is, usually at thrift stores, not always, but usually at thrift stores, you're going to get it for a really good value in comparison to the antique stores. But even when I go to antique stores, I don't mind paying fair value for something. Now, I love to get a good deal and be like, man, I got this for a steal. I love those. But I'm not opposed to paying fair market value for something either, because especially when I'm going to an antique store, that's these people's livelihood. I mean, they're going out, they have to make a profit too. So I don't mind paying fair market value for something. I don't want to be took, though, or overpay. So one of the things that I really recommend is, one, my mom knows antiques even better than I do. My mom really knows antiques and vintage stuff. She's really studied them, and she knows the pricing on a lot of it. So if you've got somebody who's more experienced that does know antiques and and collectibles, have them go with you. It makes it so much more fun too if you get to go. But have somebody who really knows and be like, yeah, that's a good deal, or I'm not sure, that might be a little bit overpriced. If you don't have someone like that, where you come across an item and either one of you are like, man, I don't know if that's a good deal or not, use your phone, you guys. Almost all of us have smartphones, and you can do a quick search in the store, provided you have enough data and an internet signal on your phone, to get a pretty decent idea if it is a fair market value. And so that's what I did for this piece right here. So one of the things that I love about the thrift stores, especially in more independent thrift stores, so Goodwill and Value Village are more of like a chain type thrift store. And I actually find where I live in Washington State, Goodwill is grossly overpriced for thrift stores. So I rarely even go into Goodwill anymore. Value Village isn't too bad on housewares. That's where I got some of the jars that I was telling you. I got a lot of these jars from the thrift store and got really good prices on them. Some of those came from Value Village, and another one was a little independent thrift store that was right next to it. So Value Village, I still feel, even though it's a bigger thrift store type chain, I still get good deals on. Here, Goodwill is just grossly overpriced. I'm not kidding you. They're used clothes. I can buy new for the same price, if not cheaper. And even with their housewares. So anyways, maybe the Goodwill near you is better priced than mine, but I don't even usually go into the Goodwill anymore to look. Occasionally I will if I have time, but it's not really one that I hit. This was a smaller independent thrift store that you saw, and so I ended up getting, these are vintage hankies. You could use them as napkins if you wanted. But I love these. They're great. They're cloth. They're in really good shape. So some of the things I look for, of course, is going to be stains. And then I look for, is there any like rotted or weak spots in the fabric? If it's something like it's a little small tear, I'm actually pretty handy with the needle, especially hand sewing. So I'll look at it and I can tell if it's something that I could easily repair. But if the fabric itself is so old or it has dry rot, then that's not something generally that I'm going to go ahead and purchase because I know I'm not going to be able to use it. But these were great. It was a matching set of 3, and I actually had been looking for getting some hankies, and the price of these, I couldn't even hardly buy the fabric new. And so these are great because I've been trying to move away from paper products and tissues and all of that. Plus, when you have a really bad cold, like, and your nose is totally raw, I don't care what brand of tissues it is that you're using, it still like irritates your nose. And so having something soft like fabric and old-fashioned hankies that I can just put in the washing machine, wash them in hot water, get them clean, and not worried about that, and reuse them over and over again is so good. And when you're getting them from a thrift store, the fabric's even softer than new because you know how that is. The fabric has been kind of worn in. So of course I washed and ironed these up. But these I ended up getting for, they were half off. They had a tag on them. It was a 50% off day. And so I got these for $3.99. So it was like $1.30 a piece, which I thought was a great deal. Really happy about that. Now, another thing that I was looking at is your fabric. So this was actually a tablecloth, and this is a vintage looking fabric, but this is not actually vintage. So it looks vintage. It's very well made. It's 100% cotton. And if you're looking for fabric, especially for things to use in the kitchen, so tablecloth where you're going to have food, aprons, or that type of thing, you really do want 100% cotton. My mom actually told me this because if it's a polyester blend or it has a lot of polyester in it, that tends to grease stain really, really easy, and then it's hard to get out. So in the kitchen, you definitely want to have 100% cotton because it's going to not hold the stains. You're going to be able to wash it, and it's just a lot more durable. But one of the things that I discovered, because this was a great, it's a large tablecloth, really excited about it, very well made. The fabric's in excellent shape. There's no stains. But because it's 100% cotton, somebody, which is why this was at the thrift store, somebody did not wash this and dry it properly, and there was shrinking. So on the seams here, when you lay it like you would a tablecloth out, even though I have washed and I steam ironed this bad boy, it shrunk at the seams, and so it will not lay flat, which drives me crazy as a tablecloth because it won't lay flat, and it can't because it had shrinking. So that's why whenever you're sewing, especially if you have new fabric or even if you buy it used, before you make your seams and before you sew it, you want to wash and dry it, especially in quilt making or anything like that where it's going to be laying flat. Wash and dry it and then cut out and do your pattern or make whatever it is you're making. Don't use new fabric and cut it all out and sew it and then wash it later, because most of the time you're going to experience shrinking and then things won't fit and lay right, and it's just like drives me crazy pants. So quick tip there. So this, though, it's beautiful, and look at all of this fabric. I mean, there's a ton of fabric here and in great shape. So I'm going to turn this into an apron for myself, and then there's going to be enough fabric left over that I could do placemats or maybe an oven mitt, or maybe even some cloth napkins. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with the remnants. I need to get the apron actually cut out and made first. And then I'll see how much fabric I have left over and decide what it is I'm gonna make out of it. But this is quite a bit in yardage, you guys. I mean, this is definitely, gosh, I would say this is well over, and I'm horrible at like looking. I would say this is at least 1.5 yards, maybe 2 yards, quite a bit of material. And so this I got, you guys, for $3.50. $3.50, y'all. So super good deal on fabric. Actually, you know, if I wanted to, I probably could even cut this up and use it in a quilt. It would be gorgeous in a quilt top, but I really want to make an apron out of it. I just think it's going to make a darling apron, and I need another apron, right? A girl can never have too many aprons in the kitchen. So that's what this is going to become, but fabulous, fabulous deal. I ended up getting, it was like all 50% off on housewares. $2 for all of these pieces, you guys. Pretty awesome. The other thing that I got, one I got at Value Village, and one I got at the same thrift store that I got the fabric and all of these. And they are the Fire King. So that they're vintage and they're old, but they're the Fire King. And so they are, I can actually put these into the oven. They're actually a custard cup, but they're really close to a 1 cup. So like a little prep bowl or custard. And I love the color of the glass. It's such a, the white is different. I don't even hardly know how to explain it. Like it's almost a blue white than like a lot of the little white bowls you get now. So I just thought these were darling. And I was at the antique store. They had the same bowl and it was marked $3.99. So $4 isn't too bad, but when you consider I got one for 50 cents and one for about 50, that's kind of the price difference that you really begin to see by going to the thrift stores. I tested it with my digital scale. You guys, this thing is right on the money. It still works. From the research that I did, it's from the late 1920s, early 1930s model. Do you want to know the price on this? $19, you guys. $19 for this, when brand new replica is almost $50, and a lot of the other ones that were at the further front of the store were around the $35, which $35 was still a good deal. But I was like so excited I may have squealed a little bit inside the store and jumped up and down, just maybe. And so this one, I came home and I'm so excited. And then when I found out that it still works and is like right on the money for measurement wise, I'm like even more of a score. So I can actually use this when a lot of my bread baking now, especially my sourdough, I do by weight. And so I'm actually gonna be able to use this. So I'm really excited about that. And I think it looks beautiful. And you guys, it's like 80, 90 years old and it still works. The vintage stuff that you can get in the kitchen, like I said, not only do I feel like it looks really cool, and that's one thing, but a lot of it is still very functional and it still works after all these times. I mean, they made stuff to last back then. I feel so much more than we have in today's time. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you to go and find some other awesome things for your kitchen. And I hope that you have a wonderful and fabulous cup of coffee or homemade mocha with me.